So, what is different? Why is it that a tzaddik cannot live in patience and peace and quiet and menucha? As the Mayon says, Vayeshev Yaakov Eretz V'Guri Ovim Eretz Canaan. Eila told us Yaakov Yosef, and the Mayon asked that question. Before the camera went dead, it was a technical break here. So why can't a tzaddik have Yishuv Adas and Menucha? Why do you have to have stress? So he says, the Mayon, the votus of Avram Avinu, but was to accept Achrayus and teach the whole world about Hashem Echad, monotheism. And there's a God in the world who controls everything. Everything is seen. Hashgacha Pratis, Hashgacha Klolis. Everything is controlled. Asa, Osa, Yasa. He made, he makes, he will make. He knows what's going on. And Yitzchak did the same. And now Yaakov cannot retire from that profession. He must continue. He can't sit in Shalva. So he had 10 years from the age of 99 to 109, or 100 to 110. And Yosef was now 17 because he came home, he was 7. So Yaakov cannot retire from promoting monotheism in the world. When he came home, same as Avodah, he limited his work for his own personal peace and self-perfection. He wanted to sit and learn only for himself and not do any kiruv. There was nothing wrong with that, but it was too much retirement from the public eye. Didn't want to be Farsam Shem Hashem anymore, Rabbi. So this was a mokum kitrug, an opportunity for the Satan to attack him, and he jumped on him, and that was the story of Yosef. It brought a lot of stress to him. 22 years of stress, from the age of 110 to 132, 130. He told his father he was 130. And there in Mitzrayim, he was again Mekadosh Shem Shemayim, because as soon as he came in the second year of the hunger stopped. So Pharaoh knew that he was a holy man. And his chus brought the Eden. Because of him, the Eden came down. They spread in Egypt, the lowest country in the world, on the most technically advanced, but the lowest country in morality. And by the time the Eden got out, 188 years later, because Yosef was already there for 22 years, and 210 minus 28 is 210 minus 22 is 188. So by the time they got out, they knew about Hashem very well, the 10 Makos. They knew Hashem was Melech HaKol Haaretz. And then when they got at Mitzrayim, and 7 days later, Kriyas Yamsuf, the whole world saw Kishem Hashem Nikra Aleim. God called the Jewish people, and the most powerful country had to submit and let them out. We didn't run out. They had to ask us to go. So you see that no retirement for Gedolim. That's the first piece of the Mayon. The second piece. Impatience, I gave a title to it. Impatience leads to great godless or tremendous chet. Eila told us Yaakov. These are generations of Yaakov. Yosef ben Shvayis Leishana was 17 years old. He was a shepherd with his brother, the son, with the sheep. Nar. He was a very young lad. Well, if you're a Navi, how can you be a Nar? If you're a Navi and a tzaddik, how can you be a Nar? He had one aspect of him which was adolescent. As B'nai Bilhah, he was hanging around with the B'nai Bilhah, B'nai Zilpah, because the 6 brothers of Leah, sons of Leah, didn't like the children of Bilhah and Zilpah, those 4, because they said they're children of Shivchas, therefore they're Avodim, they're not on our status. They're rejected. So Yosef rejected, they didn't like him, so they hung out together, the B'nai Bilhah, B'nai Zilpah, and Yosef. Nar, and he was a lad. as B'nai Bilhah, B'nai Zilpah, and the Shei Aviv, he didn't know that the father had married these two, Bilhah and Zilpah, after Rachel died. He didn't know that. Now, the Mayan has the following question. Rashi says, "V'hu nar," he was a lad. Shehoyosem asanaros. He did childish things. V'sakim b'saro, combing his hair all day long, fixing his eyebrows, his eyelashes, fingernails. Everything should be beautiful. He should look Yosef, beautiful and handsome. There's a question that is to miho mafur semes, common question, and everybody asks this. How is it possible Yosef Tzaddik, the ultimate Tzaddik, Bar Chakim, the wisest of all? Ben Zakuna means Bar Chakim, he got all the knowledge of the old men, Shem and Aver, that Avram learned from, and Yitzchak and Yaakov. And he was such a wise son, so he playing around with his hair. Ziv Ikunin Sheyakov, he looked just like his father. Ikunin, icon, he was an icon of his father. They were older, different age, but they looked the same. That's why Seder told us Yaakov Yosef, they looked the same. Yaakov, you're talking, he's Sakim Basar, he should play with his hair. And play with his eyes. And we find also, in the house of the Mitzri, where he was a prisoner, Chazal say, he Yosef Yifas Torah Yifas Mara, it says there, he was very good looking and very handsome, good looking. And Rashi said he ate and he drank and he groomed himself very well. He saw he's a ruler in the house of the Mitzri, became already chief of staff, and then he was accused of a false lie by the wife of Potiphar. So he became now the prison warden of the whole country. Because he was in the base HaSohar, where the white-collar criminals are, and he their superior. He saw he has leadership qualities, so he started to primp. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, Avicha Mesabel, your father's mourning about you, and you play with your hair? A person who sees this should be shocked. Yosef HaTzadik, Yesod Olam, the foundation of all mankind. Nazir Echad, the most abstemious one of his brothers. Nazir, superior. How is it to be that he forgot his father and lives this life of primping and dressing and taking care of himself so perfectly? Where's his depth? Now comes the knockout concept. Yesh Lama, maybe we can say this. B'Shem B'Chamor, the one that abused Nina, Shem B'Chamor, it says also he's a nar. V'lo Ochar Hanar, the one they told him you have to get the bris milah and the whole, otherwise we can't intermarry with you. V'lo Ichor Hanar, the lad didn't delay. So said over to do this, why he convinced everybody in town to have a bris? Because he wanted Bas Yaakov so bad. He was very impatient. This is a binyanab. This is a general category. Every time you have nar, that means you're impatient. Adolescents can't wait. You're not, it doesn't care, even if you're older in years, 40 years old, and impatient, you're still called a nar. Yeshua was 50, 60 years old, he was called Nar Moshe. Impatient means you want to either do something very good or very bad. You're impatient, you want to accomplish. And Shem was Nechbad, they called Beis Aviv, he was the most honored son of his father. He was the governor of that whole part of the country. He was in his shiur as the prince of the land, a governor. But he had isavlonus, no patience. The chesron mesinus, and a lack of deliberateness. He was too fast. Like Narim, like young kids, everything is fast, they don't think anything through. He couldn't control his desires, and he couldn't be miskaber over his actions. He's always jumping ahead, kofsim barosh. They're not deliberate, they're not mature yet. Doesn't have yishuv hadas. So Yosef is called a nar, and he's a nar. The Orzeh, maybe because of this comparison, we can understand why when Yosef was primping at that age. Yosef Yoda, Yosef knew 100% that he's a Navi, there's no question about it. I mean, his father agreed with him. When his father yelled at him, that was just to make a show. Because if he would yell at the brothers and say, don't you know you got a Novi brother here? He would lose 11 and win 1. He'd rather lose 1 and win 11. And his father says earlier in the Chumash, he was waiting when this was come true. And the Gemara says, if you want a dream to come true, or Nebuah, wait 22 years. And true enough, it came true 100% after 22 years. They all fell down on the ground and bowed down to him, but they thought he was Pharaoh. They didn't know he was a brother. So then the Nebuah was true. And Yosef Yoda, he knew, through Chalomos, which were Nebuahs, that he would be king somewhere, sometime, somewhere. Omer Chazal, Melech Mistapel B'chol Yom. Doesn't it say in Sanhedrin Chavbeit, a king must primp every day, have a haircut every day, trim it, the beard, do everything, every day, got to be trimmed. And that's the condition to be a Melech. Shinema, Yeshaya, Lamagimel Yudzayin, Melech B'yof Yov, a king in his beauty, means well-groomed. Tachezenu Einecho, Tachezinu Einecho, your eyes shall see the king, well-groomed, perfectly dressed, immaculately dressed. The Chaim also Matzanaris, therefore he did these things that an immature person was doing, but he was doing it L'Shem Shemayim. The Chaim Hamelech B'yof Yov, he was B'chaim the Pussy. Gam Yosef ben Sheva Eseshon, even when he was 17. Lo Himton, he couldn't wait when he would accomplish this of be a Melech. Especially when he goes into the first prison, which was the house of Potiphar. After a few weeks, he made him the chief of staff. And then the trumped up charge by Mrs. Potiphar, instead of killing him in the back, in 2 minutes, you fool around with somebody's wife. No, obviously he was angry at his wife, it says. He didn't believe her. Because he said, well, let me see where he tore your shirt. Dress. Oh, you have his jacket. How's that work? Maybe you attacked him. Oh, so he was furious at his wife, and he gave, no, but he didn't want to embarrass his wife, so he put him in another jail. Beis HaSohar, where the white-collar criminals of the government are. And he became the chief warden of the prison. Now, Yosef saw already he had leadership qualities. There's no question. The big day is coming. He had to wait 12 years. And it came. He became the Pharaoh of the country. 40 years under Pharaoh, and 40 years after Pharaoh died. 80 years he was a Pharaoh. He lived 110. 80 of the 110, he was a king of Egypt. Pasim, pay, 80. Sim, of the 110. Samach, Yud, 70, and Mem is 40. 110. 80 of the 110. He was a Paro. Pasim, that's what he was wearing. Kasonos Pasim. Shahoyim Yoshvim Baroshona, he was even Potiphar was the third most important person in the country, and he was managing the whole state after a few weeks. Whatever the owner had, he trusted Yosef. He didn't want to know nothing about it. He trusted Yosef implicitly. The Nebuah is coming true slowly. He's going to be a king somewhere. He was conducting himself like a king. Playing with his hair, combing it. He couldn't hold himself back, waiting to accomplish his purpose in life. Melech Malchus. Even at the end of time, it'll be Melech. Mashiach ben Yosef is a Melech. Mashiach is a Melech, he saw. Shnikra Paro, and when Pharaoh called him to interpret the dreams, he understood, this is it, this is the moment. Okay, taketh. Yosef shaved himself. He changed his own clothes, primped and dressed and combed and this, and he walked in front of Pharaoh. He was a man made for the job. So that's how my father says that Nar and Nar. Shechem was a Nar, and he did something, took and abused this girl. They made a lie. He says he wants the daughter to marry her. Meanwhile, he already took her, and he didn't tell that, but the father knew it by Ruach Nevuah, and the boys knew it by Ruach HaKodesh. They said, fine, no problem, you have a bris, just like we have a bris, and we'll be one happy nation. And then on the third day, they came in and slaughtered everybody. He paid for it because he's impatient. And Yosef waited for it. He also a Nar. He became Melech. Egypt was the most powerful country on earth. That's the second part. So the first one was no retirement for Gedolim. The second one is impatient leads to evil or to godless. And the third piece is about Lashon Hara. Eila told us Yaakov Yosef. This is the generation of Yaakov Yosef. But Yosef said, Yosef brought what they were doing, their report about them, raw in a nasty way to his father. You can say something and say it in two ways, and it can mean totally different. Like the yeshiva bacher that writes his parents away from the yeshiva, and he writes two words, Tati, send money. Tati, schick Geld. So the father gets furious, rips up the letter, it goes into his kitchen and tells his wife, Machutzah! A son like this to say, send me money. What a machutzah, I'm sorry, I send him to yeshiva. So the mama says, hey Tati, you don't know how to read the letter. Let me read it for you. Tati, schick Geld. I'm desperate, please. Depends how you read it. He brought it in a nasty way to his father. He saw something, may come around and jump to conclusion. He spoke against the 10 brothers, therefore he was in prison for 10 years. And then he said to the Saramashkim, 2 words, get me out of here when you get free. I know you're going to be free. I interpreted your dream. It was a nevuah. You're going to live. He's going to die. The Tabochim, you're going to live. The baker's going to die. You're going to live. And tell Father, put in a good word for me. Since he said 2 words, he stayed 2 more years. And now he was in jail 12 years. First 10 to pay the crime against the 10 brothers, then 2 for himself. So he was sold. He was down there at 17 and 12, 29, 30 years old. He was a king. They didn't come down for the next 9 years. 7 years of plenty and 2 years of hunger. Now he was almost 9, almost 40, 39 years old. Aiden told us Yaakov Yosef. Yosef is the buzzer rolling him. First of all, how do you bring a report? You bring a sefer. You bring a car. You give a hand a book. How do you bring? That's not the expression how we report Lashon Hara. Leish lehavin amru. He said the Gemara said the Schwab said Vayovo. He brought it. Why don't you say Vayaged? He told it over. In general, or V'Yisaper, he told in detail. How do you bring it? It's not a chayv, it's Lashon Hara. And that's another kasha. Tzorach Iyon. Something else. Mashi Iru Hamafoshim Shlo Nimsa B'Mikra Inyan Havos Dibo Ela Hotseisi Dibo. Also, in Tanakh, usually when you report Lashon Hara to somebody, you say Hotseisi. He brought out what he saw. He explained it. Yesh Lomer. Here's the kasha. The kasha was, how do you say Vayovo? He came home. He brought their report home. You should say Vayaged, Vayisaper, or Hotzias Dibosim. Maybe you can say Yosef Sipur La'ovim. He was telling them that you know what they're doing? They're eating Avram and Achai. That means an animal before it's dead, they eat a piece of it. They're disgracing the children of the Bilhah and Zilpah because they call them slaves. You guys are slaves. And they were looking at these Gentile women walking around. Avo be'emes chotu gam bazeh. There was another sin. Sheyakov Moser as Yosef. The 4 of the 10 did another sin. The 4 of the sons of the Bilhah and Zilpah. They did another sin. Yaakov Moser as Yosef the Bnei Bilhah Bnei Zilpah. He gave Yosef over in their care. Sheyishmeruhu, they should watch him, probably learning all the time. V'yishvarsuhu, they should serve him because he's superior. Look at Ramban, he talks about that. The chesed chazdei Hashem, takas avosam, and the chesed of Hashem, the haim, takas avosam, and these four sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, takas avosam, instead of love, they hated him. V'yistamuhu. Amnam the lulei de mustafina. If I'm not making a mistake, says the Mayan, I would say that the 4 sons hated them. Shlo Sipar Yosef Dover Zelov. He never said that these 4 sons are going against the father's directives to not take care of him and serve him. and take care of him and do his, he's a big Talmid Chacham, to serve him while he's learning. He never reported that they're mistreating him. Like the father said, they should honor him and serve him, because he's an Avi. Never told it to his father. How come not that? Atam halok suv al sefer Chafetz Chaim says in the Chafetz Chaim wrote a sefer about lashon hara. Gimel tanoim. There's 3 conditions when you're allowed to say lashon hara if it's going to accomplish a toelis, either a shidduch or a business relationship. You're allowed to tell the truth. Shidduch, you have to tell. They ask you, got to tell why it's no good, or why a person shouldn't or should be a partner with somebody in business. That's the heter, only heter for lashon hara, and this heter has 4 conditions. You have to, first of all, talk only to that person who's nogeya here, the shadchan, the business partner, not stam to anybody. That's one condition. Only to people that are nogeya, relevant people, first-hand people, the shadchan, or maybe even the parents of the girl, the parents of the boy. No one else. That's number 1. And also one who could give the kid musar, the boy or the girl, a Rabbi or parents. He calls it number 1 to talk over only to the person that could correct that other person in business or in shidduch. Something bad characteristic that he has, the father, the Rebbe, the teacher. Number 2, only talk to the person that has something to do with the subject, not stam, to the mother or the boy or the girl, or the partner in business. Number 3, you have to try yourself first to be mochiach him. If he doesn't listen, you go to these other people, but you have to try it first. And he didn't accept it. The 3 conditions. 1 is only tell it over to a person who could help that man, a rabbi, a teacher, maybe even a doctor. Number 2, only to the person that's nogay, involved directly in the India, nobody else. And 3, you should try yourself to reprimand. If you're sincere and do it privately, nicely, you have to try yourself before you tell somebody else. That's what the Chafetz Chaim said. If it doesn't accept from you, then you do these other things. Therefore, Yosef Tzadik Hevi Hadova, he brought over the report El Aviv to his father, and he didn't go around spread it to anyone else in the world, only to his father, because the father was the one that could give reprimand to boys. But they're doing these 3 averos, which turned out later not to be averos. But he thought so, because Yosef thought of himself as a ben Noach, and the brothers thought they have a din of Yisrael, and therefore Eivah Malchai is a different din if you're a goy or a yid. Or looking at women, or at or calling someone with a name. It's like lashon hara. Hey, you slaves, you. So Yosef considered himself a ben Noach, and they considered themselves ben Yisrael. The whole machlokas, if it was a sin or not. So Yosef didn't tell anybody else, only the father. So there was no rechilas. And he didn't tell about the 4 brothers mistreating him. That's not negay to anything. He left it out. So the lo hotzi, he didn't produce, he didn't manufacture his own lashon ad, megazim, exaggerate. He didn't produce it, build up something that doesn't exist. No, he brought exactly only the facts, only to his father, only about what he thought. Nothing, didn't embellish it at all. That's why it doesn't say v'huva. It doesn't say vayaged. No, it doesn't say v'yisaper. No, it doesn't say hotzi. He produced it, built it up. No, huva only brought exactly what he heard, nothing else. That's how honest he was about this thing. So why was he punished? Well, my nanish, if that was it, my nanish, why he spent 10 years in jail? Here comes the bumba answer. 2 of the 3 things he did, but the 3rd he didn't do. There was a complaint against him. He didn't do the third tonight. That you should try first to be a bullet. You're Navi, you're tzaddik, try, maybe they'll listen. You didn't try first, that's why you had to go to jail. Shlokiyam Tanai Hagimel. Why don't you be machiach them first? Maybe they'll listen, maybe not, but you have to try. Shehu ba'atzmo yochicham. He should reprimand them himself. Mikod, and before he tells anybody, maybe they'll accept. Therefore it's a bad report. That's why it's called dava. Evil. You shouldn't have done it, because you didn't keep all three conditions. Dava, you brought it in a nasty way. You didn't do all three conditions. That's why he had to go to jail. Next piece. No favoritism, even if it's for a holy purpose. Yisrael Ohavas Yosef. Yisrael loved Yosef. Mikol loved more than all the children. Ben Zekunim, who he is a child of the old age. He was already older, 91 when he had him. He also made him a long robe, silk or wool or drawings or colored. Says the Radak colored. The Medrash, it says in the Medrash, Shem Rabbi Yosef and Azariah, Omer Sorech Odom L'Shlo L'Shanos Bo Mibonot. Then, but you never should pick out one child over the other. Never make a difference. Same love, same presence, same everything, same affection, everything, same attention. Never make a difference in any of the children or in your classroom between anyone. You should not be embarrassed. Or the other children shouldn't hate him because he's superior. Or the other kids shouldn't hate him because he's inferior. Don't show any favoritism. Because of the Kasonis Pasim that he made, Yaakov for Yosef, his brothers hated him. And we see that in Masechta Shabbos, Yud, Omer Rav Bar Chasio, Omer Rav Chamer Bar Gurio, Omer Rav La'odam, Yalishon Odom Beno, Be'anabonim. Don't make one different, treat one child different than anyone else in your family. Because of the weight of 2 coins, milas of silk, and also Yaakov the Yosef, that Yaakov gave to the Yosef in that fancy robe. Yosef was Shabbat more than the others. It's kind of, they were jealous. And then the thing rolled around his skull, and every time the whole Jewish people had to go to Egypt, basically. Look what it says. Kavanas Omrim, the Olam, never should do this. Sha'af, Shesibas, Asiyas, Akosonis, Pasam Hoyidom. Even if you're making it for a holy person, he's the most wise of all the brothers, the holiest, the smartest, the cleverest. He's a Ben Zekunim, he looks like the father. And he's not only Ben Zekunim, he's a Ben Zekanim. All the Torah that he learned from Shem and Aver, and the Kabbalah, the deepest secrets he gave to Yosef. He is superior. But he shouldn't have made any garments, make him look different than the others. Oh, therefore, what you learn from Shem and Aver, the great monotheists, that's called Zekanim, Ben Zekunim, play on word, Ben Zekanim, most of the Lord gave to him. Fi Shahikir Bo, he recognized in him a genius child, something different than the others. Shehu Chochem go to Yosef Macham, bigger, wiser than all of his brothers. But Asos Kasonis Pasim, when he made that fancy garment, he made him a ruler over them. Comes out, you're going to lead them. They should honor him as a Talmud Chacham. That's a mistake. If they want to, they should, but you can't force it upon other people. It was done for Kavod Torah. Afal Pi came nevertheless. Lo yishana litain lo lach echad. Don't give to one son anything different than anybody else. Otherwise, you're courting disaster. What's happened? Look like a dysfunctional family. 10 people want to kill one brother. That's what it means. The brothers saw Ki osa ohav aviyim, that his father loved them. Mikol echav, all the brothers more. Made him a special garment, told him all the secrets that they didn't know. Chen shviyisno, so they hated him. Kol echav, all the brothers, even the 4. The rabbis, b'nei amishvachos, even the 4 sons of Bilhah and Zilpah. Afshahoy Nara's son, even though he was a friend and buddy with them. Kedivrei HaMedrash. That's the end of the bar. No favoritism, even for holy purposes. Now I want to tell you something, what the Chassam Sofer says. He says the people, the Gedolim in in Bavel were tremendous Talmidei Chachamim. You know why, he says? I have it in one of my shiurim here, on called Halashim. He says, you know why they were Gedolei Yisrael? Because, you know why the Talmidei Chachamim in Bavel wrote the Babli and Shalom, about Babli? He says, because they were not B'nai Torah. Not, N-O-T. What does that mean? He says, to cover up your godless, you have to act like a regular person. Don't let anybody notice it. So he gave them, in Bavel, they walked around with street clothes, fancy clothes, like college guys, kind of fancy stuff they shouldn't notice. That they're gedolim, they're playboys like everybody else. The reason that the Chasam Sofer says that the great Gedolei Yisrael who wrote the Gemara and Babli became so great because they were B'nai Torah. Meaning they didn't act and dress like B'nai Torah. They camouflaged it like regular street people. Yaakov wanted to cover up Yosef, to cover up his godless. Gave this long robe, who wears those things? Playboys. They saw through it. By Yiru, they saw through it. That's what Yaakov is trying to cover up by this fancy robe. Thanks, I'm nothing. I'm just a regular Hefker guy. Street. I call it Yiddish. I gas yingle. I'm a street guy. You're trying to cover up. You got such a treasure. You want no one to notice it. Some Sofer says in the Gedolei Torah in Bavel, because they were not B'nai Torah, they didn't dress and act like B'nai Torah. They didn't wear black and white. They dressed regular. And they were Tzadikim Kedoshim Torah. And that the Babylonians shouldn't notice anything. The regular guys. The more you cover up, the greater you are. So Yaakov wanted to make for Yosef this fancy garment. What is a Ben Torah doing with that robe? What is a real tzaddik gone wearing this fancy clothes? If you're nothing, you wear those clothes. Don't you see the pictures in the newspaper of these generals of Uganda, where's that, of Jordan? They have this uniform with the bullets and the medals and the boom of the V, and the President of the United States comes in a little suit. Because once the President of the United States, which is really something, and you're nothing, you have all this stuff on. Same thing there. He wanted to make Yosef nothing. Fancy clothes, a car, Adak said colors, and I'm talking Yosef said it was designs, colors, silk. You should try to make believe you're just a regular street guy. That's what Chasam Sofer said. But they saw through that. They saw that Yaakov loved him. Tried to cover it up. It didn't work. They were smart people. Very smart people. The 10 brothers. Yosef was superior. But he shouldn't, maybe one of the 3 conditions he didn't do. He had to spend 10 years in jail for that. My father once showed me a picture of 10 people waiting for a bus in Yerushalayim. B'nai Brak, 1950s. I don't know when the picture was taken in 1950s, early 50s. And it was waiting for a bus. He says, look at the people. One lady was holding a chicken, another one holding a suitcase. There was an Arab there. There was an old Yid and a Fry Yid with no yarmulke and nothing. And some from a Yid with hats on, little. And right in the road there, 10 of them. He says, look at these 10 people. You see anything different? Any big person there? I said, no. It looked like Yerushalayim, some from, some Fry. I don't see nothing special, no. You see anything special there? The father said, no. I said, no. You see nothing in that picture? He says, the third person is the Gadol Hador. Chazon Ish. Hat turned a little sideways, plain suit, looking down with a cane. Gadol Hador. Looks like nothing. That's it. That's it. The less you make of yourself, the more God thinks of you. Every day that some people say the Igeres Ramban, he says, Hashpil Asach Mascha, lower yourself, Hashem will raise you. If you think about yourself that you're trying to do the mitzvahs, I'm not a Rasha, and I think I'm a good person, I'm not the best, I'm definitely an average person, then you're a Gadol. So Gemara says, what means a Bain and between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? Give me an example of a Bain, and he says Gemara. Yeah, Moshe Rabbeinu and David HaMelech. How could that be? In their eyes, they were just average people. That's why they were Gedolim. They believed they're not Rishoyim, but they're doing a lot of mitzvahs, but they couldn't have done much better. They thought of themselves as Bainini. That's why they Gedolim. V'ish Moshe onav ma'od mikol adama shapanehu adama, says Maroscha. He was the man. Moshe was a man. He was the biggest. Onav ma'od. He was more modest than any man that tread the earth, like the earth which you walk on. That's what he thought of himself. Nothing. That's why you're the greatest man who could go through fire. Fast for 40 days 3 times. Go in Shemayim in fire. Come out alive. Speak to Hashem Pel Peh. Everybody else who heard the first 2 Dibros dropped dead. Moshe had revived them with the Shem Hashem. And he had that mitzvah when he was young. He killed him with Shem Hashem. The less you make of yourself, the more Hashem makes of you. That's why in life, things that are invisible are the most important. For instance, water doesn't have a color, doesn't have a taste, doesn't have a shape. And you need it. After a week, you can die of thirst. Air. 2 minutes, you're gone. Because it's invisible. The neshama is invisible. Hashem is invisible. Radio waves, gravity, magnetism, Ruach HaKodesh, Nevuah. Anything is that really, really, really real is invisible. That's why neshama lives forever, because you can't see it. Cover yourself up. So here Yaakov tried to cover him up because wear fancy clothes, they saw through it. Okay, Rabbi side, we're finished with the shiur, and this is the mind-based Shema shiur. And I want to tell you one thing, 20 seconds. Baal Tshuva told me about 25 years ago in the Sedra, when he showed Yaakov the ripped up kesonas dipped in blood, in goat's blood. Yaakov looked at it and says, Torah, Yosef. Yosef is ripped up. The Baal Tshuva once told me 3 words, all 3 end with a fei sophis. Torof, Yosef, fei. You know what he told me? In the Chumash, when you have 3 feis, pesika, that means the end of a subject. In the Chumash, you have a samach, or samach, and pei. That means in the Chumash, in the Torah, it means there's a space like this. You're writing something, it ends. And if you have a samach stuma, that means you wait a distance of 8 or 9 letters, and you continue writing. If you have, and the Chumash, you don't have it in the Torah, a pei, that means pesucham. If you finish here, you can't write anything more on that line. You have to start the sentence over here in the next line. It's complete break, end. He said, Yaakov said, if Yosef is really dead, pay. This is the end of the Masorah. Everything I learned that Avram figured out, he gave to Yitzchak, he gave to me. I'm giving it to Yosef. He's the repository of all Torah Shebiksa, Torah Shebal Halakha Moshe Sinai, that will be a Moshe Sinai. Everything stops dead in the tracks right here. Pay. Psucha. Over. Done. Finished the Masorah. He's gone. And there, he's Ben Zekunim, not the other 11. He was the Ben Zekunim. He was the Ben Zekanim. All the Torah of Shem and Aver. And Avram Yitzchak Yaakov. That they got from Shem. And they got from Noah. Got from Rishon. It ends with Yosef. Done. Torah, Yosef. That's the end. Would be no Mashiach. Because first you have to have Mashiach with Yosef. That's a word from a Baal Tshuva. I don't know his name. Isn't that a chap? Torah, Yosef, pay. End of the subject. Finished. The Masorah is over. We're done. Okay, Rabbi Stein. We are done. And now we'll see you next week. Im Yirtzeh Hashem Zayik Gesund Stark.